Hi, I'm Jonathan Metter, and we're here in PIKO America Service Department with more tips to help you get more enjoyment out of your PIKO trains. Today we have a PIKO non-sound Mogul locomotive. This is a number 38220. It's decorated for Rio Grande. We also make that in an undecorated version. We've made some other versions in the past, and there may be some more in the future. This is a great running locomotive, has nice smoke and lights from the factory all ready to go. But it doesn't have sound. We make that as a lower priced locomotive. It can easily be retrofitted with a great sound unit that offers you all the same features as our factory sound equipped locomotives. And that's a digital sound made actually by Soundtracks in America. So it's fantastic sound that works on either DC or digital DCC. And we'll show you the parts we need. This is a number 36220 kit. This is the way it comes in the package. And this gives you all the parts you're going to need to do this installation. It has instructions, the actual sound decoder circuit board, that's the main part of the unit, a very high quality speaker, which the magnet is strong enough to pick up anything metal in that package. That's how strong the speaker is. The volume control circuit board and the smoke switch for the locomotive. A little reed switch sensor for activating the bells and the whistles on your DC track, and a little holder for that to mount that on the truck of the tender. So that's all the parts of the kit. Along with that, you're going to want some good tools. Of course, your PIKO screwdriver set is a great way to start. That gives you a great quality screwdriver that fits very precisely to the screws on your locomotive. A pair of needle nose pliers are always handy to have, and of course always a good soft towel or something to make a nice soft work surface to protect your locomotive and tender. Okay, one thing we want to mention before we start our work on this, it's always a good idea to test the locomotive, even if it's a brand new locomotive. Of course, PIKO locomotives are tested at the factory, but make sure that your locomotive is working before you start any work. That way you know that it was working and there wasn't a problem in the locomotive, especially if it's maybe a locomotive from a friend or something. You know that it's all good to go before you start. So from that point, we've got the tender, and this is where all of our work is going to be focused. The locomotive is going to serve real well right now for a nice convenient place to prop up the instructions and have those handy. If you follow through the instructions on this kit, they're very step by step, and literally just read right through the instructions and follow the steps in order of assembly. So first thing on this, before we even open anything up, will be the little reed switch assembly. And this has the two little reed switches, which are the sensors for triggering the bell and whistle when you're running on DC power. They're little snap-in track magnets, PIKO number 35268, that snap into the track and trigger either the bell or the whistle depending on which way you turn them in the track. And this little assembly picks up on those and activates the bells and whistles. So we feed the wires through the little black holder here, and as the instructions note, we want to position that circuit board in there with the printing lettering facing up towards where the cover goes. So we're going to snap on the cover and insert two little screws, and you'll be using your smaller PIKO Phillips screwdriver for this. Okay, we've got that little assembly all put together with the two screws, and now we're going to prepare to mount that on the truck. You're going to loosen the two little screws on the rear truck of the tender. Those hold the side frames on, and this part is going to mount onto the truck. So we're just going to loosen those screws, and of course this is going to make the side frames loose, so hold the truck together while you're doing that. Okay, we've removed the two screws from the truck holding the truck side frames on, and now we're going to take the truck apart. Just pull those side frames off and set them aside. And now we're going to mount the reed switch holder, little assembly, and feed the wire through this hole in the tender floor, all three little pins, and push that up into the tender. And then we're going to put the side frames back on the truck. We can snap the wheels in just a moment, and we'll put those screws in one by one. Okay, and we've snapped the wheels back into the tender truck side frames for now, and next is time to move on to removing the tender shell. There are 6 screws underneath the tender shell. This is real easy. There are 2 right here in the corners, 2 here just at the rear of the front truck of the tender, and 2 right above where the front coupler of the tender is. And we'll loosen all 6 of those, and that will allow us to remove the shell. Okay, we've taken the 6 screws loose from the bottom of the tender, and now we're ready to remove the tender shell, and it just lifts off. And inside there you'll see the wire that we just inserted from the rear tender truck, and this is the main circuit board that comes installed from the factory. We'll be removing that in just a moment. And this is the wires for the light on the rear of the tender. And we're going to take the next piece here, which is the little volume control and smoke switch circuit board, and that's going to get mounted. We want it with the knob facing up towards the top of the tender, and it fits right here in the rear of the tender. I've actually inserted the screws beforehand, so that gets them all positioned and ready to insert. And we'll just set that down on the mounting post and tighten those screws down. Okay, tighten down the last of those screws, and you can see that that's positioned now right under the tender water filler hatch so that we can access the volume control and the smoke switch. It just snaps there in place. Okay, we're ready for our next step, which is mounting the speaker. And this will go into place on the mounting posts that are already there for it. And we'll find that the speaker magnet again is really strong, so we have to be careful as we're inserting those screws. It'll attract the screws to the magnet, but we can manage that. It also attracts the screwdriver. Alright, we'll finish tightening that speaker down securely, and we're ready to move on to the next step. We're going to make sure we note the positions of all the wiring on the original main circuit board. That is noted in the locomotive instruction sheet that came packed with the Loco, but just in case you ever want to convert back, make sure that you have notes of what the wires were and where they went. They're all color coded, and so you can get them back in the proper order if you need to. We'll use our small PIKO flat bladed screwdriver to loosen each one of those screw terminals a little bit, just enough to take out the wire. And we'll just go right down the row, one by one, and remove all of those wires from the main circuit board. And just kind of keep them in the same order they were in. And then we will also loosen the 4 screws holding that circuit board, and we're going to save these 4 little screws to reuse them in just a moment. Okay, we have all those screws loosened, and we're going to lift out the main circuit board and set that aside. And again, save that in case you ever want to use it in the future for converting back. So we're going to place the new decoder circuit board in the same place, and we'll place that with the screw terminals facing towards the front of the tender so that we have a little bit more room for our wires to work with. One thing we're going to note before we go any further, the original tender has a couple of extra white and gray track power wires. Those are for other uses. They're not needed for this installation. So one thing that's not included in the kit is a couple little pieces of electrical tape, and we're just going to go ahead and insulate those. You can use a heat shrink tube Even Scotch tape will work in a pinch to insulate those. Just make sure that they're insulated and the insulation won't come off, and then those are safe and we won't cause any harm to anything else. So that's good to go. And then we're going to start hooking up all the wires to the individual terminals, and we'll just go down the row. And we've gone on down the line and hooked up all the wire terminals, and we've checked that all against the diagram. All the wire color codes are listed right there on the diagram, so just make sure, double check each one step by step. We've hooked up the reed switch assembly, which is the trigger for the bell and whistle. That's on the rear truck. We've hooked up the volume control circuit board over here. And note at the end, we already insulated that extra gray and white wire that are used for other purposes, and we've also got a purple wire that's left over that is also used for other purposes. That should come from the factory already insulated. Make sure it is. And those three are not used. So otherwise we're ready to go, and we're ready to put the shell back on. For now we're just going to set the shell in place and give it a little test run and make sure everything works correctly. Now we're ready for our first test run with our new sound system installed in our Loco. We've got the power turned up a little bit. A nice feature of this sound unit, when you can have a few volts on the rails, you can have the locomotive parked and waiting at the station with the lights and the sound and the smoke all powered up. As we turn the throttle up, it'll give you the proper 2 blasts of the whistle in forwards, and the bell will ring for a few seconds, just as a real locomotive does. And we have directional lights, so when we turn the power to reverse, the rear headlight lights up, and then forward the front headlight lights up. And going in reverse, you get the proper 3 blasts of the whistle for reverse. And we're going to snap in a PIKO 35268 track magnet wherever we want that. And under the little PIKO logo is where the magnet's located, so you can turn it around in the track. One way gives you the whistle, one way gives you the bell. And when our tender passes over that, it's going to give us the proper crossing signal whistle. And we've got our sound system installed. It's working great. We're going to go ahead and put those screws in the tender and secure everything down, and then we're good to go and enjoy operating. We've got our installation all completed now, and as we mentioned, all the necessary work is inside the tender, and that's really all that's needed, and you'll have a great operating Loco. There is one further optional step. It's noted and described in the instructions, and that's to remove the voltage regulator circuit board that's mounted inside the locomotive. That's no longer needed because the decoder circuit board in the tender provides that 5-volt supply that the smoke unit in the locomotive needs. So it's really easy. We pull the front of the smoke box off, set that aside. You'll see the headlight there, the LED, and you'll see a little circuit board with 4 screw terminals. That circuit board is mounted with double stick tape. We're just going to pull that off, and those 4 screw terminals are 2 wires coming through the locomotive with the power to the smoke unit, and the 2 wires coming down from the smoke stack with the wires from the smoke unit. And we're just going to join those 2 pairs of wires together end to end. Make sure we insulate them so that they don't short out on anything. And then you'll have your smoke unit connected directly to the circuit board in the tender. It'll work exactly the same, but you'll have that little circuit board, which is a great little voltage regulator circuit board that we sell separately, and you can use that in a different locomotive. That's it. Now you're ready to operate.